to start with a little bit of an apology. It seems as though I've been mispronouncing the name of this group of people for years and years, and the correct pronunciation is more like yolngu. And listen to the someone say it instead of me, and we'll hear how it sounds.
yolngu.
At any rate, please disregard my mispronunciations for the rest of this video. That yolngu people is closer to the correct pronunciation. And if you look at the picture back here, you'll see these folks dancing what's called the shark dance. And they're kind of crouched with spears out, and women have one hand behind their back, although some of the men do too. And it's indicative of the fin of the shark and the predatory preparedness of the shark too with the spear. The whole dance is in honor of the shark. And this is a funeral dance. The people you see here are at a funeral. And the dance is, they're moving towards what they call the funeral shade, which I think is where the body and the coffin are placed underneath some sort of canopy. And they're moving towards the body with the shark dance. And the reason they're using the shark dance is because the identity of the person who has died was shark. And so it's in memorial in some ways. You know, the way they choose these dances and these songs is really a story in itself. The funeral, of course, is a long-lasting event, and there's many, many songs and dances that go throughout the ceremony. And certain relatives will have certain obligations to decide certain songs. So, and they apparently meet in the mornings before the funeral begins to decide how they will lay out the songs and the dances, and it's quite an art to do that. And the songs actually, you know, it's amazing the more I've read about it. The songs are more than just singing songs. I think that the Yolngu people use songs as a type of meditation in a way, from what I've been able to gather. I was reading one part where the person was saying that they thought they were such and such type animal and such affiliation, and the elders said, you won't know until you sing it. You won't know until you sing it. So it's interesting. To me, that kind of says, you know, they're using songs. It means to connect in with that inner space. At any rate, we'll continue now with the regularly scheduled program with the apology now put out front, and we'll see where we go from here. The first group we'll look at is the Yolngu tribe of Australia. And the Yolngu men actually start their ritual even before a death. If someone in the tribe is critically ill, the men of the tribe gather around the person who's ill and they sing the sacred songs. And they sing, and they sing, and they sing. And they don't stop singing. And the songs are meant to help the person to get better, but also to help orient that person towards the ancestors, to alert the ancestors that the person may be coming, and in general, to contain the space with the songs. So the men do this in shifts, and they do it over and over and over again until the person either gets better, in which case everyone disperses, or the person dies. And if the person dies, actually the songs continue even still. And the funeral, which is about 3 days long, starts. And one of the things that happens in the Yolngu funeral is that the women will keen and wail and often take sharp objects and cut themselves with it. This cues the men that it's their responsibility to go in and stop the women from cutting themselves. The men go in, they take the sharp objects and throw them out of reach of the women, and the women stop the cutting then, and they just cry. But that whole interchange of the women cutting, the men stopping, is just a way, it's a ritual around letting people know that they're there to protect, they're there to make them safe, and letting the women let people know that they're upset, they're very upset. The men tend to care for all of the stuff, You know, they take care of the body, they take care of the burial, they take care of the coffin, they do all of those things. And the women tend to emote. They tend to emote and to keen and wail, as we've said before. Of course, the men are now singing all day and all night, and they're also drumming, but mostly singing. And you know, the yolngu are kind of in two worlds. You know, they have their old rituals from thousands of years ago, which they're still practicing, but they're living near metropolitan areas now, and so sometimes their members die in the hospital. And it used to be, long ago, that they would go and find the person's body, and they would bring the body back to the camp by dancing. Everyone would dance the body back. They'd all go in a group and bring the body back, and as they brought it back, they would sing and dance on the way back. Now, when the person dies at the hospital, guess what happens? They go to the hospital, they retrieve the body, and they come and they dance on the way back to their camp. But it's miles and miles, so now they have cars and trucks. And guess what happens? They have the cars and trucks stop and start, as if they're dancing. They stop and start on the way back. So they've kind of merged the 20th and 21st centuries in with the older rituals, so that now even the cars are taking part in a dancing and singing kind of way. Okay. The men tend to grieve through the service, not through keening and wailing, but through violent and energetic dancing, they say. Energetic and violent dancing. The men are dancing, they're stamping their feet like this. And of course the workout, the physical workout, gets the grief going, right? And it also helps the body. But also the dancing puts them in touch with their anger. And the anger, of course, puts them in touch with all the other emotions, because men, oftentimes, it's the anger that will open them to the rest. So they dance in an angry fashion, they get that stuff moving, and guess what happens? It starts to open up. Okay. And then after the funeral's over, after the 3 days, they say that sometimes, even months later, you'll hear a lone voice after dark that's keening and wailing. And it's almost expected, it's almost kind of reverence that everyone kind of accepts this as a way for the grief to continue. And they also say, of course, the funerals in almost all of these indigenous cultures, the funerals last 3 days, but each funeral is not just there for the person who just died. Each funeral is meant for that person who died and all those who have died before. Think about that. It's meant for all those who have died before. So when people are grieving at a funeral, it's not just for this one death. It's for all the deaths that have come before this. It's a different concept, isn't it? Okay, so let's stop there with the yolngu, and we'll do the Daguerre next.